The warden can't see. The warden doesn't need to. Last week, the math. The week before, the edge of the math. The week before that, a player who was never in the code. Before that, a server where there are no rules and the world never resets. Tonight, there is one more thing about Minecraft, and it is the place the developers built that the player wasn't supposed to find. Tonight, we follow the place the developers tried to hide. If this is your first visit, take a moment to subscribe. There's always a place for you at the fire. The warden can't see. The warden doesn't need to. In June 2022, Mojang released an update. The update was called the Wild Update. The version number was 1.19. The release date was June 7th, 2022. Java and Bedrock both shipped the update on the same day, which had become standard for major releases by 2022. The Wild Update was a separate release from Caves and Cliffs. The Caves and Cliffs update had been the largest in Minecraft's history. The Caves and Cliffs update had also been split in two, into Part 1, 1.17, June 2021, and Part 2, 1.18, November 2021, because the scope of the changes was too large to ship in a single version. The Deep Dark was originally planned to be part of Caves and Cliffs. The Deep Dark was held back. The Deep Dark got its own update. The Wild Update release notes were long. The release notes listed the mangrove swamp. The release notes listed the lush caves. The release notes listed the dark forest, the frog light, the mud block, the goat, the axolotl, the boat with a chest. The release notes listed, near the bottom, in a paragraph of its own, the Deep Dark. The release notes described the Deep Dark as a dark and dangerous biome beneath the surface. A single biome set apart from the rest. A single biome that took an entire update's worth of attention even after the Caves and Cliffs update had already shipped. The caves the Deep Dark was meant to live beneath. The Deep Dark was the part that needed its own release date. The Deep Dark was the part that was its own thing. The developer's intent. King B-Dogs, whose real name is Brandon Pierce, was one of the lead developers on the Wild Update. In the Caves and Cliffs Part 2 livestream in 2021, King B-Dogs was asked about the Deep Dark. King B-Dogs answered on the record in front of a live stream audience that the Deep Dark was designed on purpose to be the place the player would have to work to find. The exact quote is preserved on the official Minecraft blog and on the Caves and Cliffs Part 2 livestream VOD. The quote in full is this: "This is probably the most difficult biome to find in the entire game because it only generates deep underground." The quote became, in the months that followed, the de facto mission statement for the biome. The biome was designed on purpose to be the place the player would have to work to reach. The developer's intent, second version. Agnes Zetterberg was the designer of the sculk catalyst mechanic. The sculk catalyst is the block that converts XP from mob deaths into sculk. Agnes said in a 2021 developer AMA that the Deep Dark was designed around a single idea. The idea was this: you should feel like the deeper you go, the more the world is listening back. The world is listening back. The world is paying attention. The world is doing something the deeper the player goes, and the something is more of what the world does. The sculk sensor is the block that does the listening. The sculk sensor detects vibration in a 9-block radius. The sculk sensor emits a redstone signal in response. The world is listening, and the world is paying attention, and the world is reacting to the player's presence. The sculk family. There are 6 blocks: sculk, sculk vein, sculk catalyst, sculk sensor, sculk shrieker, sculk vein again. The 6 blocks share a single visual idea. pale cyan, faintly luminous, organic-looking, like coral, like bone marrow, like the inside of a hive. The 6 blocks are all related to one another by the same single principle: vibration. Sculk veins spread where vibrations have happened. Sculk catalysts convert XP from deaths into new sculk. Sculk sensors detect vibrations and emit redstone. Sculk shriekers detect vibrations and emit a warning shriek that, if triggered 4 times in a minute, summons a warden. The deep dark is built, almost entirely, from these 6 blocks plus the same common underground blocks every other deep biome uses: deep slate, tuff, gravel. The deep dark is, in essence, a single visual idea stretched across the deepest layer of the world. The single visual idea is, the world is paying attention. The sculk catalyst. Place a sculk catalyst anywhere in the world. Kill a mob near it. The mob drops experience orbs. The orbs travel toward the catalyst. The catalyst absorbs the orbs. The catalyst converts the orbs into sculk blocks. The sculk blocks spread outward from the catalyst in concentric rings, 1 block per death, 1 ring per death. A single sculk catalyst placed near a zombie spawner will, over time, convert the entire spawner cavern into a deep dark. The deep dark is a fossil record of everything that has died in it. The sculk blocks grew because something died there. The sculk blocks are still there, long after the thing that died is gone. The deep dark is a place that remembers death. The place remembers everything that has happened in it. The place is, in a quiet way, made of memory. The warden, the most dangerous mob in Minecraft. The warden has 500 health points. The Ender Dragon, the previous record holder, has 200. The warden has more than double the dragon's health. The warden deals 30 damage on normal difficulty. The player has 20 health points. The warden can kill a player in iron armor in a single strike. The warden cannot be damaged by ranged attacks. Arrows bounce off the warden's body. Tridents are deflected. The warden can be damaged only by melee strikes, and only by weapons that have been enchanted with a specific high-level enchantment. The warden can break every block in the game. The warden can break stone, dirt, wood, planks, glass, obsidian, every block except one. The warden walks at normal speed. The warden leaps when it charges at extremely high speed. The warden cannot be knocked back. The warden is fully blind. The warden does not pathfind to the player. The warden does not navigate toward the player's position. The warden navigates toward the last vibration source it detected. The warden hears the player walk. The warden hears the player place a block. The warden hears the player mine a block. The warden hears the player open a chest. The warden hears the player open a door. The warden hears the player fall. The warden hears the player swim. The warden hears the player throw a snowball. The warden hears the player eat. The warden does not need line of sight. The warden does not need light. The warden does not need to be facing the player. The warden hears vibrations through sculk sensors across the entire biome. The warden's hearing is, in effect, infinite. The warden cannot see. The warden does not need to see. The warden arrives at the last vibration source. The warden arrives. The warden stops. The warden sniffs. If the warden detects another vibration within 20 blocks of the sniff position, the warden charges. The warden's charge is a single leap. The leap travels up to several blocks in a single motion. The leap deals 30 damage on normal difficulty. The warden cannot be interrupted mid-leap. The warden cannot be knocked back. The warden cannot be slowed. If the warden does not detect a vibration within 60 seconds, the warden de-aggroes. The warden returns to wandering. The warden has a vibration detection cooldown. If the player stays still long enough, the warden forgets. The warden is, in effect, a stealth game boss dropped into a sandbox game. The warden is, in effect, a horror film antagonist dropped into a world that is not, normally, a horror film. Reinforced deep slate. A new block added in 1.19. Reinforced deep slate generates naturally in ancient cities, encasing the reinforced loot chests and the pillars of the city's central structure. Reinforced deep slate is the only block the warden cannot break. The warden can break every block in the game except reinforced deep slate. The warden can break stone, dirt, wood, planks, glass, obsidian, every block except reinforced deep slate. A player can mine reinforced deep slate, but it takes roughly 50% longer to mine than ordinary deep slate. Reinforced deep slate is the Deep Dark's only safe block. The only block the player can hide behind. The only block the player can build a barrier with. The only block that will not be destroyed when the warden charges through the wall. The warden can't see. The warden doesn't need to. Echo shards. A new item dropped by wardens. The base drop chance is 5%. The drop chance is increased by the Looting 3 enchantment. 5 echo shards plus 3 amethyst shards craft the recovery compass. The recovery compass is a new item added in 1.19. The recovery compass, when held, points to the location of the player's last death. The recovery compass was added by the developers specifically to help players find their way back to where they died in the Deep Dark. The recovery compass is, in effect, the developers admitting that the player is going to die in the Deep Dark. The developers later removed the Echo Shard drop from the warden. Echo Shards are now loot chest exclusive, found only in ancient city chests. The warden no longer drops the item that helps the player find where the player died. Swift Sneak. A new enchantment added in 1.19. Swift Sneak lets the player crouch walk at normal walking speed. The crouch walk without Swift Sneak is roughly 30% slower than normal walking. The crouch walk with Swift Sneak is normal walking speed. The crouch walk with Swift Sneak also produces less vibration. The developers added Swift Sneak after playtesting. The playtesting showed that players found the Deep Dark essentially unplayable. The only way to move through the biome was to walk at a crouch, and crouch walking was so slow that players would starve before reaching an ancient city. Swift Sneak is the developers' solution to the playability problem the developers created. The developers made the biome. The developers found the biome too hard. The developers added an enchantment to make the biome less hard. The enchantment is called Swift Sneak. The enchantment is, in effect, the developers telling the player how to survive the place the developers built. The community finds the Deep Dark anyway. Within 72 hours of the 1.19 release, players had posted seed maps locating the nearest ancient city. The seed maps were cross-posted across Reddit, the Minecraft Wiki, and Discord. The seed maps reduced the search for an ancient city from explore underground for hours to type these numbers into a new world and walk to these coordinates. Within a week, players had built automated farms for echo shards, sculk sensors, and sculk catalysts. Within a month, players had built warden-proof houses, warden XP farms, and warden dueling arenas. The developers' intent, that the Deep Dark would be the most difficult biome to find, was technically met. The developers' intent, that the Deep Dark would be hard to survive, was met for a day. The community's intent, to find the place and live in it and exploit it, was met faster than the developers expected. The Warden XP Farm. A player-built structure. The structure uses sculk shriekers to repeatedly summon a warden in a controlled chamber. The chamber is built from reinforced deep slate because reinforced deep slate is the only block the warden cannot break. The warden, when summoned inside the chamber, is funneled into a one-block-tall kill chamber. The warden, when killed, drops more experience than any other mob in the game. A single warden kill yields more experience than killing the Ender Dragon. The Warden XP farm is the most efficient XP farm in Minecraft's history. The Warden Dueling Arena is a player-built reinforced deep slate hexagon. The hexagon is 6 blocks across. The player stands in the center of the hexagon. The warden spawns at the edge of the hexagon. The player and the warden fight. The dueling arena is the only place in the game where a warden is, technically, a fair fight. The warden horror genre. The genre started on YouTube within weeks of the 1.19 release. The genre spread to Twitch within months. The genre is straightforward. A player enters an ancient city. The player is not allowed to make a sound. The player walks at a crouch. The player does not place blocks. The player does not mine blocks. The player does not open chests. The player does not throw snowballs. The player does not eat. The player stays still when the warden is near. Most players fail. The players who fail are often killed by the warden in the first 10 minutes. The videos are watchable for the same reason horror films are watchable. The player is doing something the audience knows is dangerous. The audience watches because the audience is doing the same thing the player is doing, staying still, breathing slowly, hoping the warden does not hear. 3 intentions. The developers intended the deep dark to be hard to find. The deep dark generates only below y equals -52. The sculk sensor detects every vibration. The warden hears every step. The community intended to find the deep dark anyway. Players mapped ancient cities within 72 hours. Players built automated farms within a week. Players built warden XP farms within a month. The warden intended to hunt. The warden is fully blind. The warden hunts by vibration. The warden has 500 HP. The warden is the most dangerous mob in the game. 3 intentions. The developers, the community, the warden. 3 intentions converging on a single place. The place was built to be hard to find. The place was built to be hard to survive. The place was built to listen. The place was found. The place was survived. The place is still listening. The tool the developers removed. The 5% echo shard drop from the warden. The developers added the drop. Then the developers removed the drop. Then the developers moved the item to ancient city chests. The warden no longer drops the item that helps the player find where the player died. The Warden XP farm is still the most efficient XP farm in the game. The player can still fight the warden. The player can no longer get the warden's echo shard drop. The developers wanted the player to find the deep dark, but only after the player had earned the right to find it. The developers wanted the player to survive the deep dark, but only after the player had earned the right to survive it. The developers added tools. The developers removed tools. The tools are still in the game. The tools are in chests now. The chests are in the deep dark. The deep dark is still listening. The warden is still listening. The sculk is still growing. The biome is still waiting. The player found it anyway. The developers built a place the player wasn't supposed to find. The player found it in 72 hours. The developers built a place the player wasn't supposed to survive. The player built an XP farm and a dueling arena. The warden is still the most dangerous mob in the game. The warden is still blind. The warden is still listening. The developers built a place the player wasn't supposed to find. The player found it. The developers built tools to help the player find it. The developers removed the tools. The place has always been there. The player has always been looking. Looking is what the player does. The place knows this. The place was built to be looked for. The warden can't see. The warden doesn't need to. If this episode helped you see your Minecraft world a little differently, subscribe. There's always a place for you at the fire. And in the next episode is a vote that didn't go the way anyone expected.